Dream Again podcast and to share with us tonight. I don't think many people know, and I'm going to give you a shameless plug, that you are the audio and the video headship of Girl Dream Again.
I am.
So how does it feel to sit in that seat?
I guess much like occupying the pulpit space. You just got to know one thing about pastors in general is we have to learn how to wear many hats. So you operate in different roles. You know, you're a friend, you're a counselor, you're, a confidant, you're the spiritual leader, you're so many things. So it doesn't feel that absolutely out of place. It's just switching one hat to another.
Now, so when we talk about switching roles or hats, does that also mean sometimes we switch mask?
Absolutely. And I think, and this is just from my perspective, I think, as an example, if we think about our children, we try to be great role models for our children. We try to be, as the old word would say, that patriarch, where you were father, you were a spiritual leader, you were teacher, you were all things wrapped in one. Yeah. But when you think about children, sometimes they don't always want to preach. Preacher man, where's that?
Yes.
So that means sometimes you have to not necessarily lay down beliefs in Christianity, and
you just have to meet people.
Be dad. Okay. You got to absolutely. You got to meet them on their level. So that they can enjoy and they can have somewhat of quality of life because it's not just pastors, it's pastors, the whole family. Right. We all live in a glass house.
Absolutely right.
And you often hear that, oh, that's Pastor Denard's daughter, that's Pastor Denard's son, oh, that's the preacher's kids, So yeah, sometimes you have to switch up, to make sure that they have a quality of life and they're comfortable.
That is good, and I'm glad you said that. Because I've had that label all of my life, coming from a lineage of those that were in a pastoral role. So I absolutely get that, and we'll get there. But before we get there, I want to take a moment to talk about Al Denard. I want to take a moment to talk about the making of who Al Denard, not the pastor, not the preacher, not the quartet singer, the making of the man, Oviedo, Florida. Like, I listened to your podcast, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Muck Groves, and what else? How else did you describe? Yeah,
Orange Groves. Orange Groves.
You get what I'm trying to say.
Orange Groves and Muck Fields.
Okay, I just combined this.
So when we were growing up, that was our summer jobs. That's all we knew, and oftentimes we kind of inherited the name Citrus Babies, because at one time that's all I would eat: oranges, tangerines. Never did like grapefruit. I just can't take the bitter taste of a grapefruit. But any type of, because that's what we worked during the summer. That was our summer job.
In the field.
In the fields. And muck is basically black soil, but it's very, very rich. Okay. And you can almost grow anything in muck. But mostly it was for vegetables, and so in that.
So muck is different than regular soil.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. It's not like you going buying black cow or what. They're actually fields. Fields. Acre upon acre upon acre that are actually tilled by tractors and what have you. And it's just the blackest, richest. It almost looks like it almost kind of like melts in your fingers. And it's got this little sheen to it. But yeah, long story short, we were introduced to that by my grandparents, because that's mainly who raised me up until the age of 13. So that's all I knew. Okay. Dirt roads, muck fields, and orange groves. That's it. So
small little town. And so I assume, being reared by your grandparents, that must have come at a cost of learning and being grounded in your faith.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so, was your granddad or any person in your immediate family a pastor or preacher?
No.
Okay.
No. My grandfather's uncle was a pastor.
Okay.
My grandfather was not, but he sang quartet.
Okay.
He sang quartet for a number of years. Sang with the Brooklyn All-Stars, True Heavens of Central Florida, and a couple of more of the prominent quartet groups. So he was very well known around the city, around the town,
okay.
in various cities and what have you, because they had gotten pretty popular.
Okay.
So
quartet is in your DNA.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
that. I didn't, as a kid growing up, I didn't know anything about choir or,
I get it.
contemporary. I didn't know. All I heard was Can Spirituals, Doc McKenzie,
Mighty Clouds of Joy.
Mighty Clouds of Joy. That's all we knew. That's all we knew.
I'm with you.
So
you were developed. So your upbringing was quartet. It was church, right?
Yeah.
And so you stayed in a small town with your grandparents until you were 13, and then you came to the big city.
To the big city.
And so now you go throughout your teenage years. You're still singing, I suppose. Tell me about when you first accepted the call to ministry. How did you know you were called?
So I always knew that I was supposed to be in the ministry of preaching, not necessarily pastoring, because I never had the desire to pastor. And I think you find that a lot of preachers and pastors and ministers have the same story.
Yes.
You know, man, I don't want that. You know, so you run. So without being too exhaustive, when I graduated, I went in the military. Thought that's what I wanted to do, when the truth was I just wanted to get away from home. You know, reared in the church, coming from a strict background. Mother and father strict, grandparents were even stricter. That was my,
you wanted some freedom.
That was my get out. I can go, I can be grown. So I enlisted in the military. Everything and this is just what I believe, everything that I attempted, everything that I tried, I won't say that I failed at, but I knew it wasn't supposed to go that way.
Yes.
I knew it was supposed to be something different. Countless number of things would happen. Car accidents. I flipped cars. It's just like always something. But it always brought me back. The one thing I always succeeded and found success in.
Wow. Was ministry.
Wow. So at that point, I'm like, okay, you know, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So when I came upon re-enlistment, I didn't re-enlist.
Okay.
I came back home, of course, started going back to the church from the age of 13 up that I was raised in, and finally accepted the call. Did my initial sermon, got licensed.
I remember your initial sermon.
Yeah.
I don't
remember the title, but
I don't either. I just remember that we came to your initial sermon, and one thing I specifically remember about your initial sermon was after your sermon was over, I remember Pastor Russ stood up to give his remarks after you had preached. And I remember him complimenting your sermon and saying how amazing of a job that you had did. And there was a point during the end of your sermon you became extremely emotional.
Right.
And I remember him saying that he was good with everything that you had done, but when he saw your emotionalism, that kind of confirmed for him in that moment that God had truly called you to preach. You remember that moment?
Yeah, I remember exactly.
Talk about that moment.
So with Pastor Russ, he was, of course, you know, and shout out to him, man, respect, because he was, he didn't pull any punches. So you just weren't going to come to him like, oh, I've been called to preach. Yeah, okay.
Right. Where's the evidence?
And without, without going way over and beyond, it's like, how do you know?
Yeah, that's right.
How do you know you were called to preach? What has happened? What has been manifested that you are absolutely positive that you were called to preach? And I was actually offended in the initial because he sent me back.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he sent me back. He was like, all right, go pray about it and come back later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's my pastor or whatnot. But the crazy thing, we talk about it now, the thing was, he had told my mother some years ago. He said, that boy getting ready to preach.
Wow.
I don't know if it'll be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but he's getting ready to preach. But he told my mother, he said, but don't tell him.
Wow.
Don't you mention it to him.
That's
don't
right.
say anything to him. And then a couple of years later, here I am. So after about the third, might have been fourth try, he finally said, okay, we're going to set you a date. And that's how we got to the initial sermon.
And so you were a minister at Pastor Russ's church for years. Then you elevated to pastoral role.
Right. Okay. I actually, he would have, the way he would have it is, all of the associate ministers, we had a Sunday. Okay. That we were to preach.
Okay.
There was only one Sunday, and I actually, believe it or not, I actually still practice this at my church right now. I don't mind you using your gift. I want you to use your gift. It's going to better you. It's going to give you, what you need to continue to grow, because one day, if the Lord see fit, you're going to be pastor somewhere. So it's like second, third, fourth Sundays and fifth Sundays belong to us.
Oh, wow.
We just couldn't have first Sunday.
Okay.
He didn't play about
Sunday.
communion. He didn't play about the sacredness of, the Lord's Supper. So we did nothing.
On first
but
Sunday.
Stand next to his side on first Sunday. But we had the opportunity any other Sunday.
Okay.
The other thing that always kept us ready was he'd never tell us. Like, most people say, hey, you preach a third Sunday, get you something together. We didn't have that luxury.
Really?
We didn't have that luxury. We never knew when we was going to preach.
Hello, Steve Wilson.
We may show up at church for Sunday morning, walk into his office to speak, and he was like, you preaching this morning.
Wow. Wow.
And I mean, he was something. You mess up, you say the wrong thing, you hadn't studied. Yeah. You're not preaching sound doctrine. He'll tell you to sit down.
Yeah. Corrected.
Yeah. No correction. He corrected later. He will tell you to sit down.
Oh, okay. He was just really blunt in that moment.
It's done. You're done.
Okay.
You're done for the day.
So just sit down.
Just sit down. I got it from here.
Oh, wow. And so then, so you stayed up under his tutelage as a minister, associate minister for?
So I was licensed in 96.
No way, it was that long ago.
Yeah, it was 96. I stayed up under him until I was called to Friendship. Friendship is my first and only church. That was 2004. Okay. So
8 years. Is that 8 years? 6?
Yeah, 96, 4, 2006, 10 years. From 96 to 2000 is 4. From 2000, 8 years. Somebody's math.
We'll get your math. We'll get it together. Don't worry.
Yeah, we learned Bible. We didn't do arithmetic.
Yeah, that's obvious. Okay, so 8 years, and so that prepared you for your pastoral role. You learned how to serve. Right. You learned how you were groomed there, and so then you get to Friendship, and the pastoral role starts. And so the things that you had seen and heard about all of your life with pastors, you now get to experience it for yourself.
To experience. Now, let me tell you, about the difference in what there is no, me personally, what I believe, there is no pastor that have the same experiences.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
And I heard the stories. Oh, this and that and this and that. And out of 21 years, I don't know that I've ever experienced any of that.
Wow.
Any of that. And that taught me you can't always go, because a lot of the failures, especially with new and younger pastors, is they feel like they can go in, and because they have that title pastor, they can strong arm, they can just turn stuff upside down, they can change everything overnight. And that's probably one of the worst things that you can do. But this is crazy. This is crazy, but this is the absolute truth. Out of 21 years, I've got 16 deacons. I've never had an argument with not one of them.
Really?
Not so much a disagreement.
Really?
21 years, 16 deacons.
Okay. Is that because you endeavor to keep peace?
That is probably at the top of my list.
Okay.
But the other thing is we always had the mindset to, even if we disagree, to handle it, first of all, like adults, Christians, and come to some common ground, right? Before it got into this knockdown, drag out.
Right, I get that.
So I think that was always at the forefront.
Okay. So it helped you to navigate conflict better.
Right.
Yes, I get it. Okay.
And then most of them, they weren't, strong-headed. All kind of mild-mannered, easy-going. So that made for, very easy transition as well.
Absolutely right.
So yeah, for the most part,
it's been
I've enjoyed.
That's refreshing to hear.
Every
refreshing to hear
that I've spent.
That is refreshing to hear. I have heard absolutely different stories. Yeah. So if I had to ask you, what is something that people misunderstand about the pastor and the pastoral role? What do you think the biggest misconception about a pastor is?
That he's a real person too.
Yes. Yeah.
That he's a real person too. That he needs time. He has a family. He hurts. He has feelings. He has emotions. He has failures. He makes mistakes. I think one of the biggest misperceptions has to be centered around those things.
Okay.
In totality. Because for so many years it's been painted, and I think there are a lot of false narratives that have been painted about the preacher or the pastor. Because I say to people all the time, people will come up and they be like, "Oh, you look like a preacher." I was like, "Well, what does a preacher look like?" Without a collar. I'm not walking around with a collar on. I'm not working in a warehouse in a robe. What does a preacher look like? Yeah, but is it fair to say that there is something that stands out? Of course, something about you that lets them know, hey, he's a Christian, he's a church boy, however you want to look at it. But the question in itself, what does it look like? And as we speak, or as I'm speaking of the false narrative, we said, oh, this is X, Y, and Z. This is what's supposed to happen. This is what should happen. This is what they should do. This is what they shouldn't be doing. Or, oh, they did this and they did that. And most people discount the fact
Yes.
that he's a
Yes.
human being
That's
too.
right. That's absolutely right.
He has his up days, his down days. Anything that you face sitting in a pew,
He faces sitting in the pulpit.
standing in the pulpit.
That's good. That's good.
So,
that is very
so
true.
I think that's probably discounted the most.
And so let me ask you this, because when we talk about the pastor being just as much humanly flawed as the pew member, right? But the expectation from the pew member that the pastor should, there is some, for lack of better words, if he's going to lead, maybe he should lead, because I've heard people say, but he's the pastor, so there's a different standard I think that the people will put him through. But let me ask you this for the sake of men and women that grace the pulpit every week from a really, really broken place, perhaps from a personal place for you. What does it look like to preach through broken moments? Moments where you were just, you came to church and you put on the mask, absolutely nobody knew. How does it feel to preach through absolutely broken moments? To look in the congregation and see hundreds of people that are broken themselves, that are, disheartened themselves, that are just absolutely at a crossroad in their life, and you're standing to feed hope, to feed encouragement, yet broken yourself. Has there been a point in your life where you've experienced that?
Absolutely, many times. And I think, to your point, I think the very thing that gets, dare I say us, but certainly me, is the fact that you're standing there and you're looking out. And you see this face or you see that face. And if I could backpedal just a little bit, you just mentioned about a standard, right? Because in no way, just as clarity, I'm not discounting the fact or saying that we shouldn't be held to a particular standard, or because as a spiritual leader, certainly a pastor, we have to be.
That's right.
But that doesn't take away our makeup.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. Sometimes we do have to stand. Sometimes we are tempted. But then when you look out and you see a lot of your motivation,
that's good.
Of course, everything is to the glory of God, but when you're dealing with only half of what sister or brother so-and-so just had to deal with, it's like, well, man, if they could make it through, I can make it through, So in the whole arena of trying to be that encourager and, trying to deliver the word that you've gotten from God, you end up kind of encouraging yourself.
Yes, I understand.
Not saying that it fixes it.
Yes, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
But in that moment,
it encourages.
While you're trying to help somebody else, there's just that brief moment where you start speaking to yourself too.
Yes.
And it kind of helps you through. Now, all week long, you may still have to deal with the reality of, whatever it is.
That's right.
But
and I get it. I have seen my pastor preach himself through trials and tribulations and broken parts of his life, and just to see the stamina that he has in a moment where the natural eye could not look and tell that anything was below the veil. They could not tell that he was preaching from a broken place. So you're saying that one of the things that encourages you to preach beyond the pain or to preach beyond the brokenness is, one, to look and see the souls that are attached to your voice. Right? And to know that regardless of what it is that you're facing, that your job is to impart hope and good news to the people.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's either them or you. That's it. It's between those two.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't want to. It's kind of like talking about, and always you hear people say sometimes, I'm always the strong one, and I'm tired of being the strong one. I want a moment to where I can just, and you get that feeling all the time. But then when you come out, and you can see, because there should be not one pastor that is not able to look among the people that he's leading.
Yes, sir.
And know something's going on.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Something's not right.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So as you're standing there and you're looking out at that and you're like, what is this word? What does this word look like? How's the Spirit of God going to move? Is he going to change some things? Because I see right now that something's going on.
Yes, that's right.
Here. So you either use that moment, or as you said, your pastor, all he has is him. He's got to push himself through, because again, there's not only a standard, there's not only this is what it looks like from the pew perspective. You're the spiritual leader.
Yes.
And if I'm coming in broken,
yes,
and you're broken,
yes,
then how am I going to get what I need? So oftentimes, we end up preaching and pushing right through just so the people that we're responsible for can get fed.
So, because that digs into something a little bit deeper for me, because I think leadership sometimes can be the loneliest place for people. Pastoral role specifically can be the loneliest place for people, because who does the encourager talk to? Who does the hope giver talk to? Especially when you have the eyes of people who unfairly sit you in this supernatural seat, right? That you can't be broken, you can't, you can't be battered, and that you are. You all right?
I'm fine.
That so in essence, that you are just not to have any emotions. You sip tea with Jesus every morning. You are just that spiritual. And so when you get to a drought, because sometimes I don't think the people really understand that you all suffer mightily.
Right.
I don't think they get it.
They don't.
Yeah, they absolutely do not. And it is hard. And I dare to say that if I had not been privy to behind the veil all of my life, I probably would say the same thing, And so when you're broken, and when you're, in the words of my daddy, busted and disgusted, you don't have a lot of friends. A lot of preachers or pastors don't have a lot of friends, or a good friendship circle, a good brotherhood circle. There may be some, but then some they are not. What do you do as a sigh of relief?
Pray. There's not a whole lot that you can do, and that's good. I'm glad you brought that up, because and I've got to go back again to the false narrative, because emotions are not tied to us.
That's true. Absolutely right.
They are, but they aren't. We're the superhero. So as I keep kind of harping on the false narrative, and we're talking about staying collars, a lot of church hurt comes through when something has happened with the pastor, or in some way the pastor is fallen or whatever, and now you're completely broken.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That was my spiritual leader. I'm broken. But that false narrative
sets him up sometimes.
Sets him up, puts him on a pedestal. He's not a man. He's not a human being. He's a superhero.
Absolutely right.
Right? And you can't break.
Right.
I mean, Superman
doesn't rest.
He don't. He's just all over the place. And then finally you realize, bam. you know, outside of the call, outside of the responsibility, he's just like me.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so a lot of times we'll set ourselves up, and if we're not careful, we can set him up too.
Yes, that's right. That is very
We
true.
can set him up
That
too.
is very
But we
true.
spend all of the time counseling others, talking to others, being there for others, and sometimes we need to talk,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
We're doing a lot of counseling.
Yes.
Sometimes we need to
Absolutely.
be counseled.
Do you find that not all, some pastors internalize deeply? What can be the result of internalizing? Because let's think of it this way. You counsel. You bury the dead. You're at the hospital 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. If there's a domestic dispute, whatever happens in the day-to-day life of the people and the souls that are attached to your voice, typically you are the go-to, right? And so now it's almost like a therapist in a clinical world. Everybody dumps everything slap dab in the middle of you while you have your very own internal struggles.
Right.
Right? How does pastors internalize? And if they don't find an outlet, right? If they don't find a safe place, what typically happens?
They're going to crash and burn.
Crash and burn.
They're going to crash and burn. They're going to absolutely. And I think one of the best examples, and I don't remember the pastor's name. I think he was in the Memphis area that committed suicide.
I think I remember who you're talking
I think it was in his driveway.
Yeah, I think I
somewhere in the Memphis area. Where when you're just dealing with pressures and you just, and most of it comes again from, and I'm not saying it's wrong. It's the right thing to do.
Yes.
You're supposed to care for the
Yes.
flock. You're supposed
Yes.
to oversee the flock. But when you fail to care for yourself,
Yes, that's right.
you
That's
know,
right.
and it keeps building up and building up and building up, there comes a point where you're going to break.
Yeah.
Right?
Because most, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but who does the perfect one say I'm not perfect too?
That point exactly. You may have, and I will say, because I probably could pick out one or two in the congregation that I serve. You
Yes.
have some that actually get it.
That's
you know,
true.
and
Yes.
and if it's put in your spirit that that's the person that you're supposed to confide in, or that you're talked to, then by all means, I would say have somebody you can talk to, because again, if you don't, it's just going to keep building. It's going to keep building. It's going to keep building, and then you'll find little situations where it'll be the smallest thing you're going to blow up. Now you've triggered this domino effect. Now you've got a bigger issue than what you had before. But every pastor needs somebody. For a long time, Quartet was my outlet.
Oh.
That was my outlet because it was a side of, you know, my church duties, and I was with friends.
Yes.
You know, I was with my boys,
Yes.
I was with my
I get
brothers,
it.
and we have our
Yes.
laughs up and down the
Yes.
highway,
Yep.
and then I perform my duties.
Yes.
But
Yes.
then as the Lord kind of began to pick that apart, and I think it was all due to, okay, you know, that's fine, well and good, but
I
I
need you to
called you
focus,
to
that's
this.
right.
You know, I need you. You're not putting in the time, you know, so you gotta have somebody.
Now, do you, I know from a spiritual perspective you counsel, but do you also agree with the approach of therapy sometimes for?
That's sticky for a lot of people.
Okay.
For a lot of people. Do I agree with it? Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, wholeheartedly.
Okay.
If any pastor would come to me, I probably would recommend it, right? Had you asked me that 4 or 5 years ago, I probably would have given you a different answer.
Really?
Yeah, I probably would have given you a different answer because, again, there's a picture that's been painted. There was an outlook that was taught, so to speak.
Yes.
You know, our elders, what did they do? They prayed about everything. Maybe you just need to pray about it. Maybe you need to pray about it. But sometimes God doesn't choose to answer you that same day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to know how to walk through it.
And you got to know how to get through.
That is very true.
You got to be say, yeah, you know, I hear you, but I want you to work on your patience, right? So I'm going to make you wait on this thing. Well, that waiting period may be a long, and now you tweaking out.
If anybody had told me 30 years ago I'd be here, I probably would have laughed at them. I ran from God. I ran from the gift. I didn't want this. I didn't want to preach. I didn't want to pastor. All I wanted to do was stand behind that mic or hold that mic in my hand and sing. But look at me now. God changed those priorities. He's the only one that is deserving of the glory, deserving of the honor, deserving of all the praise. So yeah, it didn't matter what I did or what I thought I wanted. God has a way of fulfilling what he has birthed in you. God has a way of getting out of you what he has pressed down in your spirit. So yeah, here I am, doing what I do, not because of who I am, but because of who he is. I'm destined for greater. God is the only one that could do what he does, especially in my life.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Girl Dream Again, the podcast. I am so excited that you have tuned in with us yet again this week for another explosive episode. I'm so excited to have with me tonight in the studio one who's known throughout the Jacksonville area by preaching and by singing, but tonight his role is a little bit different. It is the role of one who sits down before the Girl Dream Again audience and talks about the role of a pastor. Not just the role of a pastor, the role of a pastor, the role of a leader, and the role of a believer who wears a stained collar. A collar of imperfection, a collar of failures, a collar of triumphs. So without further ado tonight, I want you to put your hands together all over the land for my friend, the Honorable Pastor Al Denard.
How are you? How are you?
I am well, how are you?
I feel like I haven't clapped for myself tonight.
I clap for you too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Are you well tonight?
Yeah, all is well. All is well.
All is well, and well is